What's up, traders? 7-Star Mike here with this week's chart review. Again, I've said this before, these aren't necessarily trades I am going to place on every single one of these, but they are things that I'm looking at for this coming week. Important note, we do have a short week this week. Tuesday, the markets are closed at 1 o'clock. Wednesday, they are closed all day in celebration of Christmas. So whatever holiday you guys celebrate this time of year, happy holidays. We do have a short week. You can expect some lower volume. Sometimes we get some big moves on low volume. They're not necessarily sustained because it's typically retail traders, but we do have a short week. Look for some low volume. And with that said, let's look at some charts. Let's start with SPY. This isn't really a chart I'm going to evaluate other than to say, look what we've got here. A lot of upside movement. It's slowed down a little bit here, but we're still day after day making all-time highs. There's a lot of guys on social media right now that are calling for a pullback, a recession. It's possible. It can happen Monday. It can happen next week, next month, next year, 5 years. No one can see the future, so anyone telling you when a pullback is going to happen, run. They don't know. There's guys on Wall Street with millions and millions and millions of dollars of equipment, the best research teams, and they can't get it right all the time. So until you see signs of a pullback, there's people losing a lot of money placing bets on the downside of SPY. Now, if you have a heavy position and you want to take some insurance out, you can use some puts. That's fine. But there's people that are heavy in SPY puts because they're waiting for it to crash. And all I can say is look at this. We've got day after day where we're making new highs. We're way above the 200. This green line is the 34 exponential moving average. I use that on a lot of my charts. We bounced. It held the support there. We're climbing again. Looking really strong right now. Will we get a pullback? Yes. When? No one knows. No one knows. No one knows. So if you want some insurance with some puts, awesome. If you're putting a lot of money into SPY just betting for it to fall just because it's climbed so much, you're going against the trend. And that's all I'm going to say about the SPY. What's up, traders? If you like the content I've been providing, please consider hitting that like and subscribe button. Comment below, let me know if you like what you see. Let me know if there's things you would like to see that I haven't covered. And if you know anyone that would benefit from having this information as well, please consider sharing. I love all the love and support you guys have been showing me. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Let's get to the content. For the consolidation group, I've got two tickers. The first one is LNT. If we look over here for the entire month of December, we're just going sideways. There was a big drop in here, but 2 days later, we've recovered it. So pretty much just completely sideways action for the month of December. Now, I can't see into the future. I wish I could. But with consolidation like this, at some point we're going to break. So I just can't see if it's going to be to the upside or downside, but we do know that at some point it will break. If we go to the downside, we can look at this support level here, which is about the 374 area. If we go to the upside, we can see some resistance here at about 396. So good movement in either direction. We just don't know what direction it's going to break in. So LMT is on watch for that consolidation break, and we'll be ready in either direction. I also have Halliburton, HAL. There's a few things I'm looking at here. Clearly resistance at 2 points over here, and we're now above that area. So resistance becoming support. So I like to see that. The other thing is we have a nice upward movement and then some sideways consolidation. So that's a bull flag formation. The expected move would be from the bottom of the pole to the top, which in this case is about $3. So if we break to the upside here, we're looking for about that $3 movement to the upside. So this is about $24.85. We would look about $27.85. Doesn't have to be exact, but about a $3 move. And if we look at this prior support level over here, that's about the $27 area. So that would be a good expected upside move for that bull flag formation. There was some resistance on this candle here in the low 26s, which is also support over here. So that would be the first target that I'd be looking for is about 26, and then coming up to this area here, which would be about 27, which would be that expected move from this formation breakout here. So that one is HAL. All right, there's a few tickers here I'm looking at that have a pattern set up. The first one is TTWO. We have an ascending triangle here with some resistance up in this area here, a series of higher lows that forms the ascending triangle. We tried to break out here, couldn't sustain it, pulled back in. We're sitting just under that resistance there. So we're looking for a break above here. There's some upside potential. We can look at resistance of this candle here, which would be about the 126.50-ish area. Above that, we can look at some support over here. Became resistance for this candle. That's about the 128 mid area. So we've got some upside potential here if we break out of that ascending triangle. PayPal is another one. Been watching this one for a few days. It hasn't quite done what we're looking for just yet, but clearly we have a series of higher lows. We have some resistance here. False breakout here, came back down, tried to break out again, came back down. So this 108.75-ish area, 108.50-ish area, giving some trouble getting above that area here. But there's a lot of eyes on PayPal for this ascending triangle breakout. There's some resistance up here at about the upper 111 area. So that would be the first stop we'd be looking for. And then we have obviously some big upside movement there if we can clear that. So that's PayPal. Next up is CHWY. I've got a line here which was support there. I've got a line here which was resistance there. So that's creating a little bit of a zone. You can see we have some candle wicks and some bodies in there, but it's kind of mixed up in that area there. So we want to see it get out of that area. We can potentially call this a bull pennant. We've got a flagpole here. We've got the pennant here. So looking for a potential upside movement there if we can break out of that zone. Looking for this prior area here that was support, maybe becoming resistance and dropping back down. If we can clear above that, we've got some upside room there. So just looking for that one to break in either direction. That one is CHWY. And next up for patterns is VRTX, VRTX. We've got a bull flag here. We've got a nice upward movement and we're starting to see some of the flag formation here. With that kind of a movement, we would want to see some kind of a pullback. This green line is the 34 exponential moving average. I like to use that on a lot of my charts. It doesn't look like it's going to pull all the way back down there. Looks like it's finding some support up here in this 217 area here. So with a big run like that, we would expect to see a little bit of a pullback. We're getting that, possibly finding support here. Looking for some upside movement. There was some action on the January 17th 240 calls. Someone bought 248 contracts there. They put about $17,000 into that. So what can we look at as far as 240? Well, if we take this move here, this is about the 200 area to about the 220 area. So that's a $20 move there for the flagpole. And then we have the flag itself. So the breakout for a bull flag formation, you look at this move here from top to bottom of the flagpole as the expected move once we break out to the upside. So if we're at 220 and we take that $20 move here to the upside, your target would be about 240. And we saw some action on those January 17th 240 calls. Again, someone took out 248 contracts, $17,000 trade. So looking for some upside movement here if we break out of this bull flag formation here. That one is VRTX. There's a few tickers we're looking at that have a gap to fill. First one up is BUD, B-U-D. Back here we have a decent gap to fill over here. Now BUD is a slow mover. This isn't a ticker that's going to give you a $4 or $5 move every day. So you definitely want to buy some time if you're looking for this, or if you're just in common shares you can hold on to them. But we have a nice upside movement here. This green line is the 34 exponential moving average. Again, I like to keep that on my charts. We had some resistance Wednesday and Thursday, but Friday we popped above it. So I like to see that. That's a good sign. We're on a little bit of an upswing here. There is a nice gap to fill from back in late October. So BUD is first up on the gap list. Next up is SAVE, Spirit Airlines. There's a nice gap over here. So what I liked about this one is we had clear resistance, clear resistance, clear resistance. Tried to get above it but couldn't. Now we're kind of solidly above that. So we're heading on the upward direction here from a previous resistance point. There is a nice gap to fill over there. SAVE. Next up on the gap list is ETSY, ETSY. There's a bit of a gap over here. This one, we had clear resistance right here, and we're pushing up right above that level there. So I want to see us get above this 4470 area here. If we can, we've got a gap to fill up in this about $52 area. That's a good upside movement there. Obviously, the first resistance would be over here at about 47, where these two candles topped out. But if we can break above this level here at 4470, we want to see these two levels here cleared, and then we can work on filling that gap. We are right at that 34 exponential moving average. You can see a big downward slope, and it's just starting to level out here. So that's one to keep an eye on for a potential gap fill. With a lot of these gap fills, we don't know the time frame on them. So if you're looking for something to fill a gap, you want to look at the average movement of the ticker to get an idea of how long it might take, and then buy yourself plenty of time to allow that to happen. So ETSY is on the gap list. Netflix, we have a gap over here that we never filled. Everyone looks at and trades Netflix, so I'm sure there's information on Netflix all over the place, so I'm not really going to spend too much time on it other than to say this was a prior resistance right here. You can see we're right up against that level there. We are on a nice swing without a red candle, so maybe we get a little bit of a pullback to this 200. Maybe we push right through, but there is a gap to fill there on Netflix. YUM, Y-U-M. Here's the gap over here back in late October. This one here, we have clear resistance here for a few days of action. We bumped our head against it, got pushed down. We're below it now, so I want to see it clear that 101.19 area. Doesn't have to be that exact number, but that low 101 area. We want to see it push against that and then clear it, hopefully with some volume, so we can get a sustained upward swing. But there's a nice gap to fill over here for YUM. We did see some action in the January 17th 105 calls. It was almost $10,000 worth. Someone opened 190 contracts for the 105s. And if you look over here, this resistance level here is 103.62. So the 105s, they're looking for a move above that. If it's down here at 100, in the 100 to 101 range, it doesn't have to get all the way to 105 for them to make money. But they clearly think we're going to punch through this resistance level here and start making an upward direction. So YUM working on filling this gap over here. Next up is ATUS. There's a gap over here that we're working on filling. What I liked about this one is we had a candle here, got pushed down, but the wick up here, resistance was right over here at support. So a technical analysis term or concept, we have prior resistance becoming support, and that support is now becoming resistance. So as we get towards this line here, I want to see it punch above that. So that resistance is the 2550 area. I've got it at 2553 on this candle, but it doesn't have to be an exact number. So we're looking at 2750. Want to see it get above that level there, and then we can work on filling this gap up here in the low $31 area. So that's ATUS. And last one on the gap list is BIDU, BIDU. There is a gap way back over here in May that we're working on filling. So we have some resistance over here on this candle. It was support over here, so there's something about this 127.26 area that we're keeping an eye on. And you can see we're just about that area here. We're actually above it by 23 cents. So we did break above that. We did close above the 200-day moving average. There's 3 days where we're above that. This candle here, this was Thursday. It came back to touch it and it closed above that, so that's a good sign. So BIDU, BIDU, we're on an upswing here, and we have this gap to fill over here. That would bring us to about the 150 area, BIDU. So this next section is about support and resistance. First one up is CYBR, CYBR. If you look right over here, we have support. This is 115.76. What I liked about this one is that we broke below the 200 and the 34 EMA with Friday's close. So if this 115.76 doesn't hold, we can look down here for about the 111 area. So there's a decent $4 or $5 move to the downside if we can break below that. Again, we closed below the 200 and 34. We're starting to see the 34 curl down. So if we can break below this 115.76 area, there's some downside movement to where these candles are here. It was support over here. It was support over here. So that's about the area that I'd be looking for CYBR. Next up is Pepsi, PEP. This one we're looking at some upside movement. We have some clear resistance here, clear resistance. We're bumping our head against it now. We're having a tough time getting above that 138 area, low 138s. We broke above it, couldn't sustain it. Broke above it, couldn't sustain it. And now we're having a tough time just getting above that level at all. So want to see a break above this 138 area with some volume, hopefully bring us up. We can take out these highs here at 140, 45-ish. And then we can maybe go for a new all-time high. So let's look for this 138 area. Let's see if we can punch through that with some volume to sustain that upside movement. Next up is LLY. So this one has clear resistance over here. We punched through it, but closed right about that level here. So we can look at this as a big cup here, and maybe we get a little pullback to form a cup and handle formation. And then we can run upwards to take out this high over here at 137. So we have a nice movement here with very little downside. So kind of due for a pullback. If we can get a little bit of a pullback here, right above, or rather right under this resistance level, then look for this 137 area. That's a good $5 movement to the upside. If we pull back a few dollars, that makes it even better. Looking for LLY, see what it does around this 132 area here, which was a prior resistance. That's LLY. Next up, PTON. If we look at this one, let's stretch this out a little bit. We have some support over here, and it's kind of acting as support. It might not hold. We're just kind of in a wait and see area right here. Looking pretty weak on Friday, obviously. So let's watch and see what this does around the $30 area. It's right at the 34 exponential moving average. We have prior support here, prior support here. So let's see if we break through that. There's some downside movement. Let's see if it holds, and maybe we make a December run at the end of the year here. But watching this one for a break of that $30 area to see what we can do. Next up, SLB. We watched this one quite a bit. Our room has played this one quite a bit. We're at a level here where we had some resistance, tried to get through a few times, couldn't. Tried to get through right here, it couldn't even get above it. It got rejected nicely. We're consolidating a little bit right under that area here. So 40.25, again, doesn't have to be an exact number. There's actually going to be more of a zone up here. We can put another line somewhere in here in the upper 40s areas. So between 40 and 41, we'll call it, there's some congestion. What I like is that it got rejected here, and now we're kind of consolidating just under that area. So I want to see a little bit of upside movement here. I want to see it test this line, maybe break above it, come back to test it and see if it holds, and then make an upside move. So consolidating right under a prior resistance. That's why I'm keeping an eye on that one. Next up, PAYX. What we have here is some clear resistance. Tried to break through, couldn't. Broke through, but couldn't sustain it. Broke through again, couldn't sustain it. We're right at that level again. So we're sitting at a support resistance level. So I want to see what this one does. We had support at the 200, support at the 200, support at the 200. We didn't quite get there these last two times, but we went down towards the 200 and it held the support. So I want to see some volume come in and bring us above this mid 85 area here. One thing that we did see, let me pull in a picture for you guys here. January 17th, some $90 calls. These are sweeps. There's a block in there, but this is above ask, sweep, ask, sweep, ask. So some good action there on the January 17th $90 calls for PAYX. So that would be breaking above this level here, which was the previous high point at 88.57. So someone's looking for some upside movement there with PAYX. Next up, OKTA. This one here, we had some support over here, some support over here. This is acting as resistance. So this area here between these two levels of 118-ish to 124-ish, a little bit of a congestion zone. We broke through it, but that was support. We stayed above it here. We couldn't get above it here. Right now, we're just under that lower level. So I want to see if we can break into this range here and maybe go from 118 to 124, get a little piece of that movement there. Maybe it gets rejected again. We're just under that lower level, so we want to see it break into that zone and see what we can do there. You do want to be a little careful because it tried it over here and couldn't sustain it. But once we broke through here, there's a nice upside movement. Came all the way back down. We're holding support at the 200-day moving average. So this is one I want to see break into that 118 to 124 range and keep an eye on what's going on there. Next up is NOW, N-O-W. We've got clear resistance right over here. We had some resistance over here, so that's a level to watch. That's the low 284s. We're a little bit below that, but we're bumping our head against it. We have some upside movement here, so I want to see what it does over here. Trying to get above that 284 area. We had some action on now. These are the 117s and the 110s for 300s. These are asks, they're sweeps, so this is some pretty good information here. The 110 300s, those, since they're yellow, this particular scanner is telling me that that's above the previous open interest for that particular contract. The white's telling me that it hasn't been met yet on these for the 117s, but we have some 300 and 310 calls, sweeps on the ask for January 17th and January 10th for 300s. Right now we're sitting at 284. This resistance level over here was 300. So someone's taking a trade based on breaking through this resistance level here. So that's NOW. Next up, I do have another one for you with a graphic. This is AIG. We have support over here, and we're sitting just on that level there. We broke right here below the 200 and the 34 exponential moving average. So looking to see if this level holds as support. If it does, we have some upside movement. If it doesn't, some downside movement. We did have some action on AIG. The interesting thing about this is that we have calls on the bid and puts on the ask. So if you see call side, bid, calls, bid, puts, this one doesn't show us where in the spread, but this one's a put on the ask. So puts on the ask and calls on the bid are both bearish. So there's two bearish scenarios there for this particular ticker, which broke below the 200 and closed below the 200. And with this being a support, and with it breaking below the 200, looking for potential downside here on AIG. That's all the charts I have for you guys today. Keep in mind, again, Tuesday we do close at 1 o'clock. Wednesday we are closed all day. Let's finish the year nice and strong. Happy holidays to everyone out there. Thank you guys for being a part of my trading journey. I hope you can pick up some tips and tricks. Leave some comments below. Let me know what you think. And enjoy the end of the year. Happy holidays, guys.